Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. Each week we bring you information about exciting things that are happening right here in our community, and today will be no different. CERT, an acronym for Community Emergency Response Team. And we're going to learn all about what that acronym means and the work behind it with our special guest in the studio today. She's Paige Colburn. She's a Public Information Officer for CERT, and we welcome her to Impact.
Hi, Kenny.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for having me.
Good. It's good to have you. So let's start at the very beginning and tell us what CERT is.
CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team, as you said, and it's disaster preparedness training for citizens and their families to respond to emergencies and disasters that might happen in their neighborhood or, for example, car accidents, really to be the first responders before our emergency responders can show up.
So the first responders before the first responders is kind of what you're saying.
Exactly. It can take a lot of time, especially after a tornado or something to that effect, for police and fire and HEMC and those types to arrive. So having basic first aid skills, having basic triage and search and rescue, and being able to put out a fire with a fire extinguisher even are skills that a lot of people kind of have the basic idea, like I think I know how to do that, but are not hands-on practice. They don't have experience actually touching and doing these things, and that's what CERT is all about. It's a very hands-on training program.
So where is CERT housed? Is there a organization that kind of manages it, oversees it, provides the training?
A little bit all over the place, actually. They don't have a house, like a physical location, but the Huntsville-Madison County Emergency Management Agency sponsors the program and helps direct the program. And
which is part of the City of Huntsville. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
The Huntsville-Madison County Emergency Management Agency is a metropolitan organization. Yeah. It has a board that is run by all of the jurisdictions, City of Madison, Madison County, and City of Huntsville. And they participate by coordinating classes and coordinating instructors for classes. Students that take the classes are taught by actual first responders, such as police and firemen and HEMC, and trained professionals that can teach them these skills that they need to protect themselves and their families.
Yeah, so how did you get involved?
I worked at the Emergency Management Agency for 7 years, and I did a lot of the volunteer liaison type work, and so these were our volunteers, boots on the ground.
Yeah. Well, was it part of your job responsibilities? Was it something that you kind of saw as an opportunity to get involved in? Because is this something everybody who would be in your role that works at the agency would also be a part of as well?
I think it's one of the most fun things that EMA did when I worked there, definitely. CERT is a really hands-on program, and the exercises, especially at the end of the CERT program, they make up volunteers with blood and gore and broken bones and everything like that, and people actually have to try and respond to that, and it's stressful and adrenaline fueled, and everybody goes out as if it's a real disaster. And that kind of activity is not something you get to do a lot in, I guess, a government job. So yeah, I think everybody was involved and is still involved over at EMA.
So you're no longer with EMA, you're in a different area now, but you stay connected to this. Is that just a passion of yours?
I wanted to, I guess, keep a toe dipped in the disaster response environment. It's something I've done ever since Hurricane Katrina. And yeah, with, trying to think.
Did you go to Katrina? Did you go to New Orleans to, you said ever since Hurricane Katrina?
Yes.
Did you go to New Orleans to assist with that process?
I served in New Orleans and Biloxi with AmeriCorps. I was in AmeriCorps Vista for 2 years, first with the American Red Cross, and my second year with Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, I guess it's a passion.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it to me. I thought people would be interested in kind of hearing, what connects you to it, because certainly people transition in life and they take on different roles and they kind of leave what was in the past back there. But hey, if you love it, keep doing it.
That's right.
What'd you bring with you today?
These are some of the CERT equipment and materials. These are the backpacks. If you go through the 8-week CERT training program, which is 1 night a week for 8 weeks, and teaches disaster preparedness, fire safety, disaster medical response, light search and rescue, and other types of training like that. At the very end, you'll have that exercise that I told you about that's all extreme and realistic, and real fires and real fire extinguishers to put out real fires. And you will get a CERT helmet, like mine, and a CERT backpack. And the backpack has lots of materials in it, such as eye protection, flashlight, batteries, the helmet, the vest, multi-tools, bandages, blankets, gloves, all sorts of things like that to help you.
Kind of like an emergency response toolbox.
It really is. It really is. And I filled up these with a lot of other stuff. I have camping things in there, and that's what I always tell people for disaster preparedness, is to pack your go kit as though you were going to be camping for 3 days.
Yeah. And that would certainly resonate with those that don't camp, or do camp, but those that don't camp might not necessarily connect to that. And I think you raised a very good point, because whether you are a camper or not a camper, everybody needs to have a disaster preparedness kit.
Right.
And fundamentally, what does that mean? Where does that sit in the house? How do people know what's in there? How to know what to put in there? What are the basic things that should be in that kit?
Yeah, there's a lot of different resources to build a kit. You can look at FEMA.gov. You can go to FEMA.gov/CERT. ADPH has their Get 10 program, which is just getting 10 items and putting them in a kit.
So just give me an example of some things. I want to kind of talk through it and let people know what are the basic. I know batteries is one. You got to have a flashlight, but
Right.
what else are the basic fundamental things? Because again, even now, I mean, no one knows when the disaster is going to happen. But even now, for something, I'm going to give you a benign situation. I never have enough AA batteries in the house when I need to change the remote.
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's a benign situation. That's not an emergency. Well, it could be an emergency depending on what's on or what's happening. But I'm saying that there's some really basic things that people need to have that a lot of people just don't have,
Right.
or can't find when they need it.
Right.
So talk about the strategy of having a disaster response kit in your home, because certainly there needs to be some kind of assessment of what's in there. Are the items fresh? Do you have basically everything you need? And can I find it when I need it?
Right, and that's why a big green bag is
Kind of helps, huh?
preferable. Yeah, you can always see it from wherever you're at.
Orange would probably be another color.
Orange,
that you
yellow,
would
something
yeah,
just
something
bright.
Yeah.
Something bright and intense, definitely. I tell people camping, because camping is a place and a time where you might be without water or power, and that's how you pack. You pack for an environment where you might be without water and power for a period of time. So your first things, like you said, would be batteries, and then also water. Water to stay hydrated, water to just have clean water for cleaning or cooking or drinking. And then food, obviously, everybody the first 3 days or any period of time after a disaster needs food.
Talking about a basic non-perishables.
Right, yeah, basic non-perishables and stuff you like to eat. Don't do sardines and beanie weenies if you don't like to eat sardines and beanie weenies.
How about Twizzlers?
Yeah, put Twizzlers in there if you want. Because the thing about post-disaster preparedness is bringing the stress level down.
Yeah.
You don't want to be at an 11 all the time, which is natural after a disaster. So anything that can make you more comfortable, anything for kids to keep them comfortable is a good thing to have in their disaster kit. Coloring books and games and toys and things like that, little things. And a good place to start is to just build a car kit, one that can sit in the trunk of your car in case, like several years ago, people were stranded on I-65 for hours because of snow and ice and things like that. Or in Atlanta, it was overnight.
Yeah,
and
85.
Absolutely. And so having those things in your car can help you in that kind of long-term situation or a short-term situation, just like being trapped in a traffic jam for a really long period of time, or a major accident or something like that happens nearby.
Yeah.
It's good to have these things, blankets to stay warm, just like you would if you were camping, and let's see, food, water, electricity of some sort, ways to communicate. People will bring two-way walkie-talkie style radios to be able to communicate with each other over a small area. And flashlights, any sort of lighting. I have several in here that are just glow sticks, because you can get a big pack of glow sticks at Dollar General or wherever, and then just hit them and you've got light,
Yeah.
you know? And
All of the things that don't seem to have any practical use until you absolutely need them. But
Right.
people need to be thinking in advance because that's really what preparation is all about, making sure that you're ready ahead of the incident. Now, of course, many of us in this region, of course, would certainly remember April 27, 2011, when a huge wave of tornadoes came through this area and took down electricity for several days and weeks in some locations. It was a kind of experience that brought a lot of people together, helped people kind of discover what it's like to perhaps be in a pretty difficult situation. And obviously, there are lessons learned anytime there's a disaster. Talk a little bit about that in terms of why it's important to stay in front of the disaster and be prepared as opposed to having to do something retroactively.
Well, yeah, April 27th, we just passed the April 27th, what do you call that?
Well, the anniversary of the storms.
And people think back on that time, not even so much because of the tornadoes anymore, as far back as it was. Because I'll wear April 27th memorial like clothing and things like that on the days, and people are like, what is that even about? The biggest thing I think was the 10-day power outage. We were without power for 10 days, or 7 days or 5 days, depending on where you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so people were out of school and out of work and had to basically live if they didn't leave the area. They had to live without paychecks and without refrigerated food and things like that. So it was a time to band together and have and rely on a lot of these kinds of tools.
Yeah, but also think about the fact that a lot of people probably got caught off guard again
Yeah.
in the midst of the emergency, didn't have these things prepared. I'm just going to, again, throw out a few more things about emergency situations. Having a fire, what's the sweetest thing that you can see if you have a fire? A fire extinguisher in your home.
Yep.
But yet a lot of people don't think about that. They're running out of Walmart or Target, some other stores, and they're getting their food and getting some clothing items. But maybe you need to go through the home accessory department every now and then and make sure that your home is safe as it relates to those kinds of preparation items. And have that thing not buried in the attic somewhere or buried in the garage, but have it somewhere in the kitchen. Because if you have a fire on the stove, like you said, the first thing is you go to an 11, you panic with that situation. And your mind gets clouded. You want to be able to think, oh, there's a fire extinguisher right there in the corner. I'll go pick it up and I'll put the fire out. I mean, so many ways that I can think of how people caught in emergency situations could have perhaps been more thoughtful in preparation in advance of the emergency, because it's a lot more difficult to think in the middle of the emergency than it is when you're apart from the emergency.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's one of the biggest takeaways, that we need to be proactive on the front end before the emergency happens so that we can do our best to respond to it when it does happen.
And that's why CERT is so great, because it's a training that you can do anytime. They do several courses over the course of the year. The next one will be in the summer. They do Teen CERT as well, right? Teen CERT is being taught at Madison County Technical School. And there's corporations, businesses, churches, and nonprofit groups. Anyone can host a CERT class.
How much does it cost to do so?
They're $10 per student.
Okay.
And then there's a donation requested for the bags, but everybody gets a bag anyway.
It's very affordable, something everybody should do. So if people want more information about CERT, what can they do?
They can go to www.madisoncountycert.org. O-R-G.
So they have to go to the website. Okay, give them that information one more time.
www.madisoncountycert.org.
All right, Paige Colburn is the Public Information Officer for CERT. That's Community.
Emergency Response Team.
All right, fantastic.
You can learn to put that fire out with a fire extinguisher instead of just having it sitting on the shelf. You can know what it feels like to pull the pin and feel the pressure and the weight in your hands and the heat on your face.
Well,
it's
you really
a great
do.
hands-on experience.
You really do, because again, just purchasing it isn't enough. I mean, if you've never used one before, in the middle of the emergency, you don't want to have to read the instructions.
That's right.
I mean, time is of the essence. Paige Colburn, she did a great job. thank her for being with us. Being with us today on our broadcast. I'm thinking about those emergencies that I want you guys to be prepared for, and I want you to do something before the emergency happens. You always tell my story about the carbon monoxide detectors and why they're important to have in your home, because you just never know. And I had an experience where I had purchased one and the alarm went off and carbon monoxide was seeping into my home. And had I not had that detector, it could have been an unfortunate outcome. So we hope that you get ahead of the disaster, that you get ahead of the unfortunate situation, and maybe check CERT out and get that training that's available for you out there. Sounds like it's available to anybody. You don't have to have a specific title or position in life, that you just have an interest in providing support for the community and for yourself so that you'll be prepared in case of an emergency. We hope that you enjoyed the show that you watched today, and that the video that you just saw is one that you perhaps can once again watch on our Facebook page, which is Impact with Kenny Anderson, which we hope you'll like, so that you can follow not just this show, but also previous shows, as well as future shows, and what happens behind the scenes once the camera stops rolling. For Impact, I'm Kenny Anderson. Have a great day.